Well, hey guys, welcome to my dough bowl project. This bowl, I'm still in the process of finishing it. As you can see, I've been still working on the sanding, but this bowl is kind of special. It's very similar to a dough bowl that my grandmother had, and they actually, back in the old days, they used these to put the flour in the starter and actually knead and mix up their dough as they bake bread or biscuits or whatever they were doing. But anyway, I wanted to make something very similar. I'm going to give this to my parents because this was given to me, actually the log was given to me by my dad, who had to cut down a 20-year-old maple tree about a year ago. And so I was given this log, it's probably about, 18 or 20 inches long. And so I took it out in the backyard with my sledgehammer, my wedge, and split it in half. And then what I did is I took the log and I used my hatchet to kind of, hew the surface off to get it below the pith, of the log, because you really don't want to work on something that has the pith in it. You want to get it below that. And then I took the other side of the log and using this hatchet, I hewed a flat surface because I want my bowl to, lay flat on the surface. So that's basically how I got the bowl ready, and I'll try to show you some footage maybe of that on another log. I did not get footage of me doing that with this particular log. So here are some of the main tools that I used. Okay, so I had an angle grinder with the Arbortech cutter on it, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute. And it's just a standard angle grinder that I got from Harbor Freight. The other tools that I used is the reciprocating saw, and it's got a big pruning blade on here, so it worked well for kind of trimming this bowl down, so I didn't have to use the the grinding tool quite as much. I'll show you that in the video as well. And then also I got this belt sander, portable belt sander here, and this came in pretty handy for actually kind of the flat areas, especially getting this kind of level and planed up, and then the bottom of the bowl. So those are kind of the main tools that I used for the project, and I'll tell you more about how I did it and show you more footage as we go along. But I will say that I was very pleased with the Arbortech cutter. I had to save up some money for Christmas and buy this. It is a little expensive. I think it was about $150 or something like that. But this thing worked perfect on this maple. Maple is very, very hard, and I tried all kind of things. I even tried the little chainsaw attachment that fits on here, and it just would not work on this maple. But I used this Arbortech, and it worked perfectly for hogging out the material for the bowl and then shaping the outside of it. I was very, very pleased with how this worked. So join with me, and we'll show you in the next few scenes. I'm going to show you scenes of me using the Arbortech tool and some of these other tools, and then halfway through I'll stop and talk a little bit about the sanding process, and then toward the end I'm going to put a finish on this, and I'll show you what I'm going to be using to put the finish on. So stay with us, join with me, and let's get started. did all the rough carving and hollowing the bowl out with the Arbortech cutter. And one thing I want to say, just a couple of words on safety with this. I did remove the cover guard that went on here just to give me a little bit more maneuverability. I wouldn't recommend you doing that. Just, you know, follow the instructions that come with your angle grinder, whatever model you've got. I did wear some leather gloves because without that guard, the chips just fly back on your fingers and hands, so you need to wear some work gloves with that. And I put the handle on the left side, and I always gripped it with two hands. I would not recommend just turning it loose with one hand. Don't do that. Make sure you grip it solidly with two hands. It's a relatively safe tool, though I didn't really feel unsafe. I feel much more unsafe with that little chainsaw attachment. But anyway, one option is not to even do any sanding. Now, I've seen a lot of these dough boards that are very roughly carved, and in fact they have the gouge marks in there. And so if you do that and you just leave the gouge marks from the Arbortech tool or whatever carving tool you're using, may not even need to do any sanding. Just leave it kind of a very rough look. But what I want to do, or what I'm going to show you here in a minute, is I'm going to take it through some different progressions of sanding. So once I've done the rough cutting with this, I moved on to a couple of options here. This is a Kutzall, made by Kutzall. It's a shaping disc. It's very coarse. I think these run around $50 or $60. If you want to go a little bit cheaper route, you can go down to Home Depot or Lowe's and get one of these wheel flappers, 40 to 60 grit wheel flappers, and they work pretty well too. But I was pleased with the Kutzall shaping disc, and it did a great job. And then once I've got it, most of the gouges kind of smoothed out, and mine's not perfect. I'm not really trying to get it. I don't want, I want it to look like it's handmade. I don't want it to look like it came out of a manufacturing plant, but I did want it to get it relatively smooth. So I went on from here to sandpaper, and I used the orbital sander. So I started with like 80 grit sandpaper, and then I moved to 120, 220, and then I think I went up to 320, although probably 220 is a good place to stop. I also tried this little attachment that I got from Harbor Freight that you can put on your electric drill, and I think this was like a 120 grit, but it helps to get in those curve places pretty well. So there you go. There are some options you can use to do the sanding on the bowl. Okay guys, hey, we're down to the final step. I have done all the sanding that I'm going to do on this. It did take a long time. Of course, as you know, sanding is probably the most time consuming part of woodworking, but I've gotten to a stopping point. Now what I've done to prepare for the finish is I took my air compressor, blowed out all the sawdust and fine particles on there, and then I took a paper towel and some mineral spirits and I rubbed down the bowl inside and outside. What that does is does a couple things. It helps wipe away all that small dust that you didn't get with the air compressor, and also it allows you to see any major scratches that you want to take care of. You know, and I did notice a few scratches when I applied mine, but you know, I've decided this thing doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. Most of the dough bowls that I've seen online are very rustic looking, so I think I'm at a point where I'm ready to apply the finish. Now, the way you want to finish this really depends on how you want to use it. If you're going to use it purely for decoration, then I would probably recommend like a Danish oil. The Danish oil is a good finish, clear Danish oil if you want, or if you want to get one that's a little bit more of a darker Danish oil to stain the wood a little bit, that looks good too. But the Danish oil also gives a very good sealing properties and does well on wood. You may even consider it to be food safe after it's totally cured. I know there's a lot of debate online about that, but you just need to look it up if you want to find out or want to know for sure. However, we're not going to use this for mixing dough in. I'm pretty sure my mom's not going to be using that for this purpose, but she might put some fruit in it, so it is going to be contacting some food. So I'm gonna go with a food safe finish, and that means using an oil. Now you could use a pure linseed oil or pure tung oil, and what I mean by pure is they don't have any kind of drying properties in there that might be, might have some toxicity in them. But if you do those two oils, it is going to take a much longer drying time. You're talking about maybe like 12 to 24 hours, between coats. I'm going to stick to just, pure mineral oil, and that's what I'm using here. It doesn't really matter what you use. The brand I'm using is a Howard cutting board oil that's food safe. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this oil with some paper towels, and I'm going to, put the oil in there, let it soak in, let it dry, and probably another 20 minutes I'll put another coating of it, another layer. Maybe do that for 2 or 3 times. I'm going to let it soak in and dry out, and you're also going to wipe off the excess, between there and those applications, and then let it dry, let it soak in overnight, and then I'm going to come back with my wood butter. And you may have seen this in some of my other tutorials or talked about in some of my other videos, but my dad's a beekeeper, so I can get a life supply of beeswax. But what I've done is you can find my recipe, a link to my recipe in the description, but it's a real simple recipe of mixing beeswax with mineral oil. Makes a really good application, food safe application. And so after the mineral oil has set up and dried, come back probably tomorrow or later on and apply the wood butter, and then I'm going to work that wood butter in real well with a clean cloth or paper towel, then wipe off the excess, and the bowl should be done. So let me go ahead and we'll start doing applying the mineral oil. Let's go ahead and do the inside first, and just wipe a liberal amount on here. And wow, that just really brings out the beauty of the maple and the grain pattern. I know you can't see it yet, but I'll show you close up here in a minute. Anyway, I don't know if you can see that real well. I'll try to get some close-up shots, but you can just see the grain pattern coming out really beautifully. Lay this over, start applying it to the outside as well. if you can tell it, but part of this maple has spalted, and don't exactly know how to describe what spalting means, but it is a kind of a chemical reaction that the wood undergoes, sort of almost a decaying kind of process. But that's this side right here. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the spalting in there, and that actually, to me, gives a beautiful character as well. Okay, I'm going to set this back up on these little tripod holders here and let that dry for about maybe 20 minutes, and I'll put another layer on there. I'll see you back here in just a few minutes. Well, hey guys, welcome back. Hey, I went ahead and finished up the dough bowl. I realized this video is getting a little bit long, so I went ahead and finished applying all the mineral oil. I did about 3 layers of that last night and brought it inside and let it soak up and dry. And then this morning I put on the wood butter, and basically all I did there was I applied a liberal amount of the wood butter all the way around the inside of the bowl and on the outside. Worked it in with a paper towel real good and with my fingers, and wiped off the excess, and then used my polisher drill attachment to go over it and polish the wax on there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. The bowl turned out great. I love the coloration and the grain that's coming through this maple. I know my mom and dad will probably be excited to see it when I give it to them. But hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of videos, please subscribe to my channel, and please give me a like. Also, go down in the comments field, and if you've done a dough bowl, want to share any insights, or maybe saw something that I could do differently or do better, feel free. Hey, I just want this to be a learning channel, and us learn together. So hey, thanks for watching, and happy woodworking.